This is Robert Kraft, and I'm coming to you live on SNN Live, and we're at the LD Micro Invitational 2017 in Bel Air, California. With me right now is Greg Reed from Kraken Sonar. It's a publicly traded company with the symbol PNG on the TSX venture. Greg, welcome to SNN Live.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you on the program. So, for our audience, let's start off with an overview of the company and then go from there.
Sure. Kraken's an underwater robotics company based out of St. John's, Newfoundland in Canada. We started out selling underwater sensors to other people on their underwater robotics equipment. Over the last 4 years, we moved from a sensors company to a systems company. Effectively, what that means is we moved from selling a product that sold for $300,000 to $400,000 to having a product that sells for $1.5 million today. And we have some products in the pipeline that will sell in the $3 to $4 million range. What those products are used for are basically providing ultra-high definition imaging of items that are on the seabed. Who looks for those types of things on the seabed floor? Predominantly the military market, and then the commercial market, which is mainly oil and gas, but a little bit of treasure hunting, underwater mining, etc.
So, where does the technology come from? Where was it developed? Please tell me.
So our CEO, Carl Kenny, he's a technology entrepreneur. He's originally a Navy officer, 10 years in Canada. He was an early badge at Microsoft prior to it going public. And he had a digital imaging company, compression technology, in the 90s that he built it from nothing. In 5 or 6 years, he ended up selling the company to a subsidiary of Kodak. So he had a background on the imaging side. About 8 or 9 years ago, he was talking to some people at the Canadian Defence Research Council, asked them what cool maritime technologies were out there. They said you should go look at what's called synthetic aperture sonar. NATO was spending millions and millions and tens of millions on this technology, but it was very hardware-centric. It was very expensive. Carl went and looked at it with his engineering team. They realized that through some changes in technology with advanced GPUs, where medical imaging technology was going, that you could really go with a software-centric approach and take the bill of materials cost down significantly. So what navies might have been buying the odd one for $7, $8, $9 million a system, we could do a lot of that in software and develop it and sell it for south of $1 million. That's the background. The one other thing is being based in St. John's, Newfoundland. We're on the east coast of Canada. The oceans are in our blood, and that was one of the key drivers of where Carl initially took the company.
I was just going to ask, what is your technology replacing? So, and you kind of touched on it, but maybe you could expand on it a little more.
So a couple things. Synthetic aperture sonar is replacing traditional side scan sonar. So side scan sonar has been around for decades. Really the key difference is we're able to see with synthetic aperture sonar from much farther distances, much higher resolution on the seabed floor. So what that really means to the end customer is a term called area coverage rates. So in effect, we could sweep a certain area in 1/10 the time as conventional technology and still give much higher imaging detail on the ocean floor.
So another thing I want to know then is the competitive landscape must be rather small because the barrier to entry sounds rather difficult.
It is. It's a very interesting industry in the sense that it's high barriers to entry. If you look on the synthetic aperture sonar side, there's 5 companies in the world that do it. There's ourselves, and then there's 4 major international defense contractors. So Raytheon and Northrop Grumman in the U.S., a Norwegian company called Kongsberg, and then ourselves in the space.
I was going to say, you got 4 majors and then Kraken.
Yes.
3 majors and Kraken.
Yeah. And it's also an industry where in some cases you're competing with companies, and in other cases a different division of that same company is coming to you and saying, well, can you do this type of technology for us? So To give an example, one of our large competitors had come to us and said, "We like your new catfish product that you've developed. We're interested in doing a survey of a certain region. Can we rent one of your products to go run this survey?" So they actually have their own product in that space, but our selling price and our performance of our product is much lower than theirs, so that's why they're looking at it.
And what's your background? How did you come into all this?
Myself, so I'm a finance guy. Originally I'm a chartered accountant. Moved into the investment side of the business in the late 90s. I spent about 15 years on Bay Street in Canada. Started out as a technology research analyst covering different technology stocks, writing research reports. Then at the end of my career on Bay Street, I moved into investment banking. I had run across Carl, who's the CEO at a previous company that he was at, knew he was a visionary, knew he had the ability to put a very good team together. And when he told me about Kraken, I looked at it and I said, okay, here's a company that has world-class technology. It's competing against some big competitors in a market that is seeing accelerating growth. Yes, it's still early days versus if you look at aerial drones. The underwater drone space is still much earlier days, but the same dynamics are happening. The market is going to see good growth, and with the high barriers to entry, Kraken was well positioned in the market.
I was just going to follow up on that too. Yeah. My next question is, what is the market size?
The different industry research reports are out there, but in general, it's about $1 billion industry today. By 2020 or 2021, the forecasts are for it to go to about a $5 billion industry, and that is split generally about 60% defense-related today, 40% commercial. The expectation is that at the end of that forecast period, that it will be flipped. The commercial market through oil and gas, through research, scientific research, through treasure hunting, subsea mining, that will be the bigger market. Yeah.
And so how's the sales pipeline doing currently? And also, from what you can tell me, what are some of the company's near-term milestones you're hoping to achieve?
Yeah, so that's it's a great question. We feel that we are at an inflection point. We've gone from selling sensors to still selling them, but have come up with some new products that are systems. The pipeline has accelerated significantly. We say in our slide presentation with investors that we have about $100 million pipeline, which sounds like a big number given the size of our company, but these are programs that have been several years in the sales cycle on the defense side. The largest one is an Indian Navy opportunity where we're a subcontractor to a main prime defense contractor. It's down to the final two companies now, and there's a technology bake-off that's going to happen in the September-October timeframe this year. Expectation of a contract award will happen probably in Q1 next year. So that's a real big one. That's a company maker. There's a number of other, I call singles and doubles, with oil and gas companies and mining companies. So I think for milestones, people should look in the next 3 to 6 months. Let's see Kraken starting to convert some of this new technology they developed into contracts with well-known names in both the defense and oil and gas space. Yeah.
So where can our audience go and find more information about Kraken Sonar?
Kraken Sonar, if you go to www.krakensonar.com, that is our website. We actually in the process of upgrading the website, expanding a social social media presence as well. We also were listed on the TSX in Canada, in the process of applying for a U.S. listing, and expect that in the not too distant future we'll have a U.S. OTC QB listing as well. Yeah.
My name is Robert Kraft, and I'm coming to you live on SNN Live, and we're here at the LD Micro Invitational 2017 in Bel Air, California. With me again is Greg Reed from Kraken Sonar, publicly traded company with the symbol PNG on the TSX Venture. Greg, thank you so much.
Thank you. Pleasure.